What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another live stream right here on the MI Gardner channel. We're going to continue off. I had to just stop doing the live stream. We're going to do it for a second time now because, yeah, I just kept getting interrupted with the live kept getting interrupted. So hopefully you guys are going to pick up where we left off. We're going to be talking for 30 minutes about heat maps. We're going to be talking all about heat maps, and we're going to be answering your questions, answering very popular questions, talking about mistakes that people make, talking all about heat maps. Now, before we get started with this live stream, I want to give a shameless plug to MI Gardner heat mats. We have them available over at migardner.com. If you are interested, only if you're interested, only if you are motivated to buy one, we've got them available. Now they are available. We're doing a special live stream discount only for people watching the live stream. It is not available to anybody else. You can save 15% off any sized heat mat, any number of heat mats, using the code HEAT, H-E-A-T. Super simple, great way to save a quick buck on some heat mats. Now, these are absolutely incredible heat mats. We use them to start all of our seeds that need heat. We'll talk more about that in a second. And we're going to talk all about said heat mats. So with that, let's jump on into this. Now, obviously, like I said, normally I would say hello to everyone. We already have over 100 people just tuning in. We got a bunch of people that are going to be coming in here. I'm hoping to have right around 300 to 500 people. Because again, this is our second try at this. I apologize, but as you guys know, technology. So first thing, mistakes I see so many gardeners making are using the heat mats not with the right seeds, right? So what you want to do are you want to focus on seeds that can benefit from heat. Now, not every seed that you're going to start will need a heat mat. So for instance, if you're starting seeds like lettuce, right? Lettuce, we got our green for lettuce. We got a bunch of lettuce here. This stuff's not going to get a heat mat. We're not throwing lettuce. We're not throwing lettuce on a heat mat. It doesn't need it. In fact, it'll stress it out because lettuce likes cool temperatures to germinate and it likes cool temperatures to grow. Another one, we're not throwing on a heat mat. We're not throwing our kale. This is our spinach and kale. You're not throwing spinach. You're not throwing kale onto a heat mat. You notice the trend. It's a cold weather crop. Cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. Cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli can benefit from a heat mat, but you want to be very careful not to use too much heat. And in my opinion, what you want to do is you want to put a small sheet of cardboard over top of your heat mat. Even if you're using MI Gardner's heat mats, this is something that, because they are very sensitive to heat, you do not want to add too much heat or the seeds will start to bolt. They'll actually start to sprout. Now, the issue that I have with gardeners using heat mats is because unfortunately a lot of gardeners end up making mistakes and they blame the heat mat. And a lot of gardeners will say, well, my heat mat was what killed my plants. Or maybe they might even think that they themselves killed their plants. It's not using the heat mat correctly. It's a tool. Okay, a heat mat is a tool to help you. You use the heat mat incorrectly, it doesn't matter how good you are at starting seeds, you're going to have problems. And so what we want to focus on are seeds that benefit from a heat mat. As I said, cauliflower and broccoli, and kale, and cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbage. They can tolerate some heat, but they only like around 70 to 75 degrees, which is basically ambient temperature. Now, if you're in an unheated garage or in a greenhouse, yes, absolutely, a heat mat can benefit. They'll benefit from a heat mat, but you want to put a piece of corrugated cardboard underneath your flat to give a little bit more of a buffer so it's not quite so hot. Now, another one, cucumbers. Cucumbers can benefit from a heat mat. Cucumbers like warm soil. They will benefit from warm soil. So we got some cucumbers. We're going to throw those on a heat mat. Absolutely. But we're going to only throw them on for a short period of time. As soon as we see sprouts, we're going to take them off. Now, cucumbers, that will help to increase the germination rate of the cucumber. Cucumbers will have big damping off problems. Squash, same category. So you've got some squash, same thing. This is going to help to reduce damping off. That is where the soil stays damp for an extended period of time. The seeds begin to rot in the soil, and as they're sprouting, they're just not strong enough to shed that seed coating. And what happens is there's bacteria that will actually feed on the young plant, causing it to fall over. And oftentimes, it affects tomatoes and squash and cucumbers in particular. Now, it can affect other crops as well, but those are the big three. Now, so another one, we're going to focus on the big three here: eggplants, tomatoes, and peppers. These are crops that like hot and arid or hot and dry environments. These are crops that absolutely will benefit from a heat mat, and you should be putting these seeds on a heat mat. The reason being is peppers specifically, tomatoes, yes, they'll benefit, but peppers specifically, if you have them on a heat mat, without a heat mat, they can take 2 to 4, even 5 weeks to germinate. It's a long time to be sitting in the soil. It's a lot of room for error, and it's definitely a reason why gardeners struggle germinating their seeds. If you can speed up the germination, you're going to increase your success. So with peppers, we find that on a heat mat, we're going to be getting germination in right around 1 to 2 weeks, rather than 3 to 5. It keeps our soil temperature at or around 80 to 85 degrees. And that ambient heat is what helps to increase the germination and the germination rate. What's the code? So if you want to get these heat mats here, the code is HEAT. It's just HEAT, HEAT. It gives you 15% off any heat mat, any number of heat mats you buy. MI Gardener branded heat mats. These are sick. They're awesome. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And again, if you don't want to buy a heat mat or you already bought one, you don't need one, that's fine. It's cool. Hope you learn with us. So we are using a heat mat for these big three, but we will also use them on other crops as needed. But remember that most of your cool weather crops do not need a heat mat. Second mistake I see gardeners making is using a heat mat too long. So for instance, we have these on a heat mat. We got some marshmallow, we got some peppers, we got some asparagus, we got our moringa. We do not have these on a heat mat now. Reason being, seeds will germinate better in warm soil, but the plants do not need to grow in warm soil. The plants can tolerate, at that point, once they germinate, can tolerate warm soil, room temperature soil. Okay, if your plants are kept on a heat mat for too long, you will end up with leggy, stressed seedlings. Okay, legginess is where the seedling begins to stretch, and you find that it just stretches and stretches and stretches, gets all top heavy and falls over. That's because it is trying to escape the heat. It's trying to escape the heat, and a lot of gardeners end up with leggy seedlings because they put the heat mat on for too long. You do not want your heat mat on after you start to see sprouts. So that brings up the question. Great question. I'd highlight it, but I'm a little far away from my phone. The next question that just popped up is, what happens if my whole tray is not germinating? Thank you so much, Avery. So yeah, so prime example here, we're waiting on some seeds. We're waiting on some seeds to germinate. They're taking their own sweet time here. Some seeds take 2 weeks, some seeds take 3 weeks, some seeds take 4 days. Every seed is different. Okay, this is a bunch of different seeds here, a bunch of different flowers we started. And you'll notice seeds have sprouted, got our dahlias up. We're waiting on, we got 4 different sets here of seeds, or 4 different cells. We've got some sprouts in there, not too bad. But We're waiting on some sprouts in here to germinate. These are not on a heat mat. These are not on a heat mat. The reason why is because, yes, these might benefit from a heat mat. But because these are already up, these are no longer benefiting from a heat mat. And so what we do is we simply remove it from a heat mat at that point. And that's one of the downsides of starting many different seeds in a tray. If you started all one thing, like let's say, okay, for instance, you're starting your tomatoes. I always tell people when possible, try to start all your tomatoes in a single tray, because that way, when you start to get germination, you can remove them from the heat mat, and generally the whole tray will have sprouted at the same time or right around near the same time. If you're growing, like I did in this tray here, the tray of flowers, 7 different species, the problem is not everything germinates at the same time. And so you're going to have inconsistent germination that you have to remove them from the heat mat regardless. So yeah, so yep, Avery, we just take it off the heat mat once we see sprouts. Now, what you can do is you can turn it sideways, like if the end. I don't have a good example because there's no end caps. But let's pretend that this rosemary hadn't sprouted yet. In theory, I could put the heat mat on just this side of it and leave this side off the heat mat, and that would in theory work as well. We've done that in the past. Can we see the heat mat? Yeah, for sure. This is a live stream / tutorial, so you guys can ask away. I don't mind. Should seedlings be watered from below or on top? Always below until once they sprout. So, a beautiful. Check this out. Look at this. It's like a scroll. This is our small version. You'll notice here we have recommended germination temperatures here for different plants. Super awesome. This looks crazy high quality. Really awesome. I absolutely love our relationship with our different manufacturers because they are the best. So yeah, so that's the small one. And then here's the kicker. We got ourselves a big one. The small one's super cool. The big one is super duper cool. The big one is essentially 4. It's the size of 4 of those flats. And that's why you get 48 by 20. This is 10 by 20, which fits a standard flat. These flats here are 10 inches by 20 inches. It's a universal measurement for a flat. It's 10 inches long, 10 inches wide, 10 inches wide, 20 inches long, 10 by 20. And so that is standard flat dimension. So with these jumbo ones, you can actually fit 4 flats on a single heat mat. It takes up space, but it also it covers a lot of space, and it frees up plugs. You don't need 4 different heat mats all plugged in. Really super duper cool. And again, if you want to get those over at mygardener.com, use the code HEAT to save 15% from this live stream only. Next mistake I see gardeners making with heat mats is putting them on timer. Do not put your heat mats on a timer. Our lights are on a timer. Heat needs to be consistent and uniform. If it's consistent and uniform, the seeds will germinate at a much better pace. And if they're on a timer, you're going to have your heat going like this. And seeds don't like this. Yes, this may happen in nature, but seeds still don't like that. Seeds like this. Seeds will germinate best like this. So keep your heat mat just plugged in. Do not have it on a timer because the lights can go off and on. That's fine, but the heat should stay fairly consistent. That's the next mistake. Now, what are some other mistakes? Well, I guess right off the bat, big mistake that gardeners make is at least I've seen this mistake being made, but it's one that is not as common now just because stuff is a lot safer. But these heat mats here, so these heat mats, they are able to get wet. Okay, I'm not gonna call them waterproof because it's electric. Okay, when you're watering, it is recommended to unplug your heat mat when you're watering. I think it's kind of just a common sense thing, but it is a very important safety tip. It is very important that when you are using these, you unplug them when you're watering and then simply plug them back in when you're done watering. We don't need, again, the risk is very low, but is it there? If I didn't say it, it would not be wise of me not to mention it. I see people all the time just water all over the place around their heat mat, and it's like there's still electricity running through that. So just take that. I always unplug mine, always when I water. Um, all right. Yes, the large heat mat does have the same information as the small one. It's just bigger. Okay, next question from from Michael. What's your opinion on humidity domes? It's a good question. So with humidity domes, I'll kind of tie this in because it does tie into another mistake I was going to make. With the fact that we have 14 minutes left, we have lots of time for questions, but I want to kind of bounce from question to talking, question teaching, because you might be asking questions that I might address, but I don't know. There might be questions that I may not address that I'd love to talk about. So Michael brings up a good point about humidity domes. Now, Michael, we do not recommend humidity domes under any circumstances. Now, it's not to say you can't have success with humidity domes, but humidity domes essentially trap moisture near your plants. And if you use them too long, you're going to have problems with excess moisture, lack of airflow, and overall, it increases the risk of mold, mildew, damping off, and it ultimately can lead to problems down the road with seed starting. It can be a tool, but I often find that managing your water a little more just, consistently is far better than relying on a piece of plastic to trap all that humidity. Now, even when seed starting, I don't recommend it because, again, having that consistent airflow helps to dry out the soil. And the seeds don't like to go bone dry, but they don't like to be sitting in wet soil all the time. That can lead to rot as well. So I do not recommend a heat mat or a humidity dome. Now, that does tie into using a heat mat, which is the next mistake that I see a lot of gardeners making when using heat mats is that they forget that the heat is coming from below. And quick poll, you guys probably already know this. What direction where what direction does heat move? I'll wait for your answer. I think you guys already know the answer. What direction does heat move? Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So everyone knows this. That's great. Hot air rises. Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. Arduana. Yes. Janet's cruising homestead. Yes. Up. Yes. Jillian, up. Heat rises up. Okay. So next pop quiz is if you got your heat mat below your plants, if you got your heat mat below your plants and the heat is rising up into the tray, what happens? Throw your guesses. What happens? I love the interaction. It's super important to me because it's rather than me just flapping my lips. I love to know that I like to see the light bulb clicking. That's why I do these. I like to see the light bulb click. So if the heat mat's below, heat is rising up into your tray. What happens? Any guesses? Absolutely, Teresa. Absolutely. Evaporation increases. The moisture leaves with the heat. And it's such an important part to using heat mats is that your watering schedule will be increased and you're going to be watering more frequently when using a heat mat. How much more do we water when using a heat mat? We typically are going to be watering about twice as frequently. If we're watering once every 3 or 4 days with a heat mat on, we may find ourselves watering every other day. And that might seem like quite a lot of water, but we want to make sure that we have that consistent moisture in the soil. Because if we don't, the seeds are going to dry out, and the soil will absolutely affect the germination rate. And that's another big mistake. You can use a heat mat for so much good. I mean, we have the best results using heat mats. But I've been on the record as saying that I don't recommend using heat mats because of the fact that gardeners make these mistakes, and it often can reflect poorly on either the heat mat, or the heat mat killed my seedlings, or a gardener gets discouraged and say, oh, I'm just a failure. No, you just got to learn how to use the right tool, right? If you've got a flathead screwdriver, if you've got a flathead screw, you don't pull out a Phillips. If you've got, if you're baking a cake, you don't pull out a cookie sheet, right? It perplexes me as to why gardeners will put a heat mat on. They will leave their seeds on too long. They forget that water evaporates, especially with heat rising through the soil, and they will, they'll put it on a timer, off and on and off and on, and they do all this stuff. They do not use the tool correctly, but yet they'll blame the tool. It's just that we what I really want to help you unlock is that it's not the tool that's failing you, it's your lack of knowledge about the tool. And it can be an incredibly beneficial tool that can help to increase your germination rate, increase your success, and the speed of germination so your plants are up and growing faster. And that is the huge takeaway. So yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that analogy. That was great. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, no, I do not recommend baking a cake on a cookie sheet. No, no, Silas. No, definitely not a good idea. Not unless you want to be cleaning up an oven. Can I use oh, I missed your question. Can I use a heat mat with a self-watering container? Yeah, for sure, absolutely. A self-watering container would be fine. That's not a problem at all. Again, you just want that consistent moisture. You want the consistent moisture, consistent heat for good results. Should I use a heat mat with peas and onions? Onions can benefit from a heat mat. Peas should not. Peas like cold weather. Remember? So I want to go back. You might have missed this. Remember? So we talked about the big three. Okay, tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers. Those are the big three that will always get a heat mat. If you're growing in a cooler environment, like an unheated garage or a greenhouse or in a cold room, kind of like this, there opens up the possibility for optional crops. These are sometimes, right? Broccoli and cauliflower, cabbage, squash, more cabbage, apparently. Squash, cucumbers. These are the sometimes. There's also like Swiss chard, sometimes. Okay? Never your cold weather crops. There's cool weather, and then there's cold weather. Cold weather crops never, under any circumstances, ever get a heat mat. Your cool weather crops, thank you so much, by the way. I appreciate all the shares. Oh my gosh. Wow, someone just I just got a notification that someone shared it with 30 of their friends on Facebook. Let's go. Wow. That's super cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. I mean, we're only going to be here for like 6 minutes more, but maybe they'll watch, if you are joining late, just watch the video after it posts. You'll be able to watch the whole 30 minutes talking all about heat mats. All right. Let's see. Would a top be good to use to hold the moisture in? No, Avis, no. We just talked about that. I do not, under any circumstances, recommend a humidity dome. Way too many mistakes can be made. There's way too much margin for error. It is not good. A humidity dome is not good, in my opinion. I know there are people that use them. The thing is, you have to be so incredibly careful and precise with using a heat mat. If you use it incorrectly, you're definitely going to pay the price. What do you recommend to regulate the temperature of a heat mat? What is really awesome about MI Gardner heat mats, I cannot say this about all of them. MI Gardner heat mats will self-regulate. They actually have a self-regulation mechanism. They have a built-in thermostat that essentially will throttle the temperature. That is incredibly important for a high-quality heat mat. You will sometimes have a heat mat that will dial the heat. You can actually dial it in. However, those are incredibly expensive. And in my opinion, you only need one thing to modify your heat mat, and it's basically free. And that is a sheet of cardboard. Okay, look. Take your seedling trays. If you're growing stuff that are in your always category, take the trays, put them right on the heat mat. The sometimes, right? The sometimes category they like temperatures, soil temperatures from 65 to 75 degrees. Now our heat mats heat up to 85 degrees. They self-regulate at right around 85 degrees. They will self-regulate, meaning you don't have to do anything. They will be within that ideal range for germination. And if it gets slightly warm for these crops, all you do is you take a sheet of corrugated cardboard, a box, break down a box, set it on top of your heat mat. And what will happen is the air in between the corrugated cardboard sheets will transport the warm air and disperse it more evenly, giving you a buffer of right around 5 to 10 degrees, taking an 85-degree heat mat, which is great for your always seeds, lowering that temperature down to 75 degrees, and you don't have to spend an average of $20 extra. It is mind-blowing to me how many people take very few always seeds, but will buy a heat mat that costs $35 to $45 because it has a little temperature dial that you will use quite literally once a year. You will use that once a year. That's not worth it to me. That's why when we went to the drawing board, we said we are going to create the best quality seed, the best quality heat mat for those affordable price, and really focus on the core competencies of a heat mat. There are things that you can do that are so simple, like throwing a piece of cardboard over top, throwing those sometimes crops on top of that, have no problem at all with heat distribution. You can also use foam insulated sheets as well. Absolutely, anything that has air pockets that will help to transport that warm air and help it to kind of disperse, so it's not being directly in contact with the soil, will help to disperse that heat and help you have results. So we got time for 3 more questions. We're going to answer 3 more questions, and then I have got to go again because Mrs. MI Gardner has yoga tonight. And so I've got to enter dad mode here in T-2 minutes. So, sorry. So, yeah, let's answer some questions here about heat mats, and then I will jump off. And I want to remind all of you that if you want to head over to migardner.com, you can use the code HEAT, HEAT, save 15% off your heat mats. We have a large size and a small size. They are absolutely incredible. These seriously are the best quality heat mats, and I guarantee you those that already have some. We've had people that say, I'm coming back for more because they're so good. These are amazing. We use them on everything. What seed starting mix do you use? So we use a seed starting mix known as Pro Mix. It's a pre-bagged mix. We also carry that over at migardner.com, but you can also make your own. It's very simple. We hydrate coconut husk fiber, coco coir. We add in perlite, vermiculite. We have a video on it if you want to check it out. We had perlite, we had vermiculite, we had a all-purpose fertilizer. We use Trifecta Plus as our all-purpose fertilizer, and that is what we use for our very basic seed starting mix that we make ourselves. Let's see. Oh, it's raining out. We're getting rain. Yep. Just use the code HEAT at checkout. Use HEAT, HEAT. It'll save you 15% off your heat mats. Right now is the season to be getting a heat mat, to be using a heat mat. In fact, on all the heat mat orders, on all these heat mat orders, we put priority status on them because they are very easy to ship out. We have one designated person on our team shipping these suckers out all day long, every day. And we just got them back in stock. They've been selling like hotcakes. They do not need a promo code to sell. In fact, this the person who's shipping them out probably is going to kill me tomorrow when they find this out. But we want to give an extra incentive because I understand. It's the thing is that you don't need. We already know that our prices are so fair, but at the end of the day, getting a discount's fun. I like getting discounts, and I always say like the buck stops with me. I like to do things that are fun because if I was you and I hung out with someone for 30 minutes, I want a discount. I want to have fun. So it's not necessary for us. We were selling them just fine. I can promise you that. We just shipped out 400 of them this week alone. So yeah, they're selling just fine. But if you want to save some money, on a heat mat, go head over to migardner.com. Get yourself a heat mat. You will thank me later. You will not be disappointed. And like I said, I promise you this: if you open it up and you do not think it is the highest quality heat mat for the dollar that you're spending, let us know. We'll fully refund it. Stand behind it 110%. We use them on our garden. Everything we start that needs a heat mat, we use our very own heat mats because they are just the best. We trialed over 100 different heat mats from different manufacturers to find the one that works the best. And then we basically took all the things we liked. We contacted the manufacturer and said, we like all these things, make it better. Make us like it more than these. And they did just that. And I'm so, so proud of our manufacturer that makes them for us. They're awesome, awesome individuals. And it's partnerships like that allow us to provide incredibly high quality products at a very affordable price. So, yeah. So anyways, I got to fly. It is dad time. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys learned something about heat mats. I hope you all watch my latest video that I just uploaded today on using grow lights. That's ties right in with heat mats. We just uploaded a video today on grow lights, answering all the questions and demystifying grow lights. So I hope you guys will check that out. Love you all so very much. And until next time, grow bigger. All right. Thank you guys so much. Love you all so much. We'll see you later. Bye.